Welcome back to the Wolf of Property and Casualty. I'm your host, Derek Lasniak, with over 15 years of commercial broking experience, focused on the middle market, upper middle market, national account space. And this podcast is a practitioner led real talk podcast from a guy that doesn't have any business products, who just loves insurance. And I try to take everything I think about from a lens of buyers, brokers, and underwriters. I talk about my experiences. I talk about what I did. I talk about how I framed things in my role as a broker. And I talk about whatever's on my mind because I got a huge passion for this business, for the insurance community, and I'm a bit of a nerd. I have been having some fun looking for things to talk about. Sometimes they come to me randomly, sometimes they don't. I used to be old school. I used to write everything down in notebooks that look like this, for those who looked on the video. And I always said for E&O purposes or for to cover my ass, I would save all of these notebooks and I would have them in case somebody said, "Hey, you were in a meeting one time. Can you look up the date and see what you wrote down or what was said in that meeting?" And I never really went back to them. You go back to the notebook that you're currently using, but I probably have like 40 or 50 of these notebooks for my career as being an executive and writing things down. And I never took great notes, but I only needed things to trigger my memory, and I had really good recall for whatever reason. I think that was one of my secret powers when it came to insurance. But at any rate, I just pulled one randomly from my closet, and I just was ticking through it, and I came across a page for a former client of mine talking about a situation, and it gave me a pause. And it's something I want to talk about just briefly. And so the example that I want to talk about today, and what I want to mention, this is for brokers, buyers, and underwriters might have an opinion on this, is what happens when you have your insured, or you as the buyer, you have a vehicle that gets into an accident, but it's not your fault. Meaning a third party blows a stop sign and hits your vehicle. This seems like an easy insurance matter. I would get calls about this all the time. And I think where I made a choice to handle this with the support of people at the firm I used to work at, it was again, I was always looking to harvest opportunities for me to show effort, to go above and beyond. Let me outline some of the insurance implications very basically when you get hit by another party. So if I'm driving my company van down the road and someone blows a stop sign and barrels into me, and let's assume that I'm not injured, it's just my car is all banged up. Well, if I'm 100% not at fault and a cop comes and we have a police report that's going to support 100% not at fault, but I need to get this vehicle fixed, I rely on this vehicle in order to make money for my business, then I need to get it fixed. But it's not my fault. That vehicle that for my client is insured under our commercial auto policy with some kind of deductible, probably 500, maybe 1,000, maybe $2,500 of physical damage. Liability, again, liability insurance as part of your commercial auto, that's for the person that blew the stop sign. So that person blows the stop sign and they hit us. Liability does not have a deductible, but physical damage does. We are also in a commercial auto environment that, despite the soft market conditions, is frankly terrible. And there's no end in sight. Commercial auto is stuff full of nuclear verdicts. We have tort reform needs throughout the country. We have litigation everywhere. And frankly, just the cost of vehicles to repair keeps going up. And that inflationary factor is going to drive auto pricing for premiums up probably 7 to 10% in perpetuity. It's been going on for the last 5 years, and I don't think it's going to stop. But getting back to my scenario, my insured is driving. He gets T-boned by a car that also is insured. Let's just say it's another work truck for a different company, and clearly it's their fault. The police come to the scene. We get a police report. It's going to read that it's clearly their fault. Let's talk about some of the realities of this situation. I get a call from the CFO of the client. Hey, somebody hit us. What should we do? Where should I take my vehicle? You kind of are at a crossroads now where you have two different things that you can do. Two different options. The first one is you turn it in. You say, okay, let's file a claim. But let's think about that. We know it's 100% not our fault. The police kind of said at the scene of the crime that's 100% their fault. Maybe they got a ticket, the at fault party. So now we have a decision. I turned it into my insurance. My insurance is going to say, great, I'm going to treat it like a physical damage. I'm going to treat it the same way as a tree just fell on it. We'll pay for the damage. We'll pay for the repair. You're going to be out the deductible, whatever that is, $500 to $1,000. Great. Sounds good. You'll be out that money. And then we'll send it to subrogation. Well, depending on who your insurance company is, subrogation is a black hole where maybe they're going to go after that guy's insurance. Maybe they'll be successful, but more often than not, they just wear each other down and maybe you don't see the subrogation. You should ask your insurance company how successful they are with subrogation. What if that person didn't have great insurance? What if that person's insurance only had $20,000 because that's the legal limit? There's a lot of what ifs when you go down this route. Not to mention, you're in an auto environment that is going to penalize you for claim activity. So now I put a claim in, hoping that maybe I get subrogation back in the future, maybe, and I've added to my claim history for an event that wasn't my fault at all. And so when you have that crossroad, I think the instinct is, oh well, I'll put you through to claims. Why don't you send it in right away? Well, what if I need a rental car? What if I need all of those things? Where am I going to get reimbursed? How long is this going to take? What I used to do to protect not only the claims history is I used to insert myself as a broker. And I used to say this was practice on being a bulldog. And for brokers out there, this is one of those moments where you can show your customer that you're scrappy. I used to say, hey, before we turned it into our insurance company, that person admitted that they had fault and that it was their fault. And we have their insurance information because it was collected at the scene of the incident. You know what I'm going to do before I turn it in and go through the hope of subrogation and getting your deductible back and doing all those things? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to call their insurance company first thing tomorrow morning once the claim is filed. And if it's not filed, I'm going to open up a third party claim on your behalf. And I'm going to see if I can work with the adjuster at the at fault party and have only the claim filed with them. Clearly, they're at fault. Clearly, the driver admits that it was 100% their fault. There shouldn't be an issue with them accepting liability. The driver, whether he's an employee or whether he's just Joe out driving, he's not going to have a deductible, so he's not going to be worried about protecting his pocketbook. Why don't we see if we can just file the claim with the at-fault party's liability insurance? And let's just make sure that they're on board with us going to the shop that we want. Let's make sure that they're willing to cover a rental vehicle if we need it. And I'm going to work on this and I'm going to handle this directly. We're also going to save having a claim filed on our claims expenses. I did this all the fucking time. And yes, it was a pain in the ass. And yes, it was a little bit of a work. But you know what I was able to do with my client throughout that period? I took a minor thing that probably gets passed off a lot and I made it part of my personal problem. The example that I turned to in my notebook that prompted me to think about this was that it was not just some guy, it was the head of sales that was going through this situation. So as the person who is driving the vehicle for your client that's involved in this gets higher and higher and there's more eyeballs on it, it becomes more important that you take a strategy where you become personally involved in something that you may think is somewhat tactical, something that you maybe wouldn't otherwise. I will tell you that I gained a lot of respect from most of my customers because I made it my personal duty to get the other insurance company to pay the bill. And I reminded my customer, here's what we're avoiding. We're avoiding claims history that we otherwise would have had. We're also not hoping and praying that subrogation gets our dollars back for not only themselves, but our deductible back. This kind of little effort goes a long way. It also was something where you can shoot a quick email. Hey, I called that adjuster today. And this is one of those easy things where you can show your clients that you are doing something, because it's weird if you do something for a client to say, hey, I thought of you today and I started negotiating your renewal. Love, Derek. Well, that's fucking weird. They don't care. But now I've started something with my insured to say, I'm going to handle this from start to finish. Now you get to shoot little emails to them over the course of the week and a half, 2 weeks. Say, hey, I'm all over this. Remind them that you're grinding. Remind them that while they're sitting in a board meeting, you're actually taking the time out of your day to hustle and grind and beat up on an adjuster at a third party because there isn't a matter that's related to their account that's too small. These are these little moments where if you think about them, you can increase your touches outside of the normal 6 meetings we have a year. And if you play them right, you can show your client in a very respectful way and keep them updated about the effort that you're showing. Then when they think of you, then when they're saying, talking to the owner of the company, yeah, you know what? Derek took a personal interest in getting that auto claim, not only off our record, but they were also able to make sure that we had everything we needed paid for by the other company. So don't sleep on these little opportunities and moments. I used to think about these as how my customer was going to experience service from me. And I took that stuff personally. And I think it's why a lot of my clients always thought I had not only grit, but dedication to them and my job.